Computer.
All right. Hi, this is Jake Porter and my mentor teacher, Mr. Luther.
Hi.
We're here to do our first mentor group discussion. So to start, I'm going to present my culture and family artifact reflection. So we're going to begin by talking about a student named Elias. And we previously did this discussion. Sorry if this comes off a little stiff, but um, you remember Elias?
Mhm.
He was a level 2 English language learner.
Yes.
He came from a background where his parents were not English speakers and they had no previous work experience or um, life experience in terms of like America,
Mhm.
like jobs and things like that.
Right.
They can't read or write, they can't drive. His father was fired from his job because he was not used to the responsibilities required of him.
Mhm.
They are possibly involved in a domestic violence situation, according to the reading.
Yep.
Um, the church that they're sponsored by sent them to America with 6 months worth of rent, with the hopes that they would be self-sufficient after 6 months. And it's been 6 months and they are not. So Elias has been he's been experiencing frequent absences
Mhm.
from school.
Yes.
And so this has been a major problem for him because outside of his absences, he is doing well socially. He's doing well academically for his skill level.
Okay.
What this assignment is I had to consider the challenges and opportunities he's presented with. So obviously we discussed the challenges, his parents, inexperience with just responsibility.
Mhm.
Um, they need him to be a translator for them because they're not English language speakers.
Correct.
There's outside pressure from the church and the lack of reliable transportation and income.
Mhm.
The opportunities that I identified, obviously his close friends that we've seen don't care about his English proficiency. That's great for him.
Yep.
He is enrolled in English lessons, so that's improvement. And when he is at school, he and his sisters have made plenty of gains.
Mhm.
So the short-term plan that I developed, we're going to take advantage of those opportunities and use his close friends to be peer tutors and create like a small group,
Mhm.
try to get them involved with him that might help him. We're going to chunk what we can of the lesson plan and simplify it so that what little languages, what little English his parents do know, maybe that will help them be able to uh, help him with the assignments.
Right.
Um, Maybe assigning him something that's pertinent in his church community, you know, using that as a lens for identifying with the classwork, with the
Mhm.
content.
Mhm.
In terms of the long-term plan, I know we had discussed transportation being a major issue.
Mhm.
So like a bus route, um, and establishing that priority with his parents that school is like a necessity. They're going to get in trouble if he's not coming, and that
Right.
it
And
needs to
that,
be a priority.
in my past experience, I feel like that culture, they feel like, and sometimes the student or their kid, like, they don't have the importance of school, whether if, especially if dad lost his job,
Hmm.
many chances that he may just be out because he's trying to provide for the family
Right.
or working with dad.
And
Um,
prioritizing work.
right. So yeah, I think it's important to, some cultures don't see, especially when they come over to the United States, like they don't know anything about what we can provide at school. And also, like the long-term benefits of their student when they're comparing their school of their culture compared to ours.
Right.
And like if he is struggling to get a job, the opportunities that we have in certain school districts here, that maybe work-based learning, and even some districts can have work-based learning to a certain diploma.
Right.
It could be an alternate diploma. So I think typically the parents are not sure about what avenues we can provide for their student as far as different diplomas make up.
I mean, with like TCAT with families that are more work oriented.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. So the next thing we need to discuss here is my family communication flyer. I don't know if you can see that very well, but I had to identify the class layout, the structure,
Mhm.
academic expectations, and options for help and engagement.
Beautiful.
Okay. Next topic is we need to discuss the primary domains of disposition, and those are open-mindedness, self-reflection, curiosity, and educational equity. So, open-mindedness, obviously very important.
Hmm.
Um, we deal with a lot of different situations, and I feel like,
And all different backgrounds,
yeah,
especially the previous student.
yeah,
Yeah.
we can't, put a round peg in a square hole, right? Like it,
Right.
you have to be open to
Hmm.
the different situations we
Yeah.
might come into contact with.
And especially at the high school level where students are very aware
Mm,
of like their surroundings as well,
yeah,
is not only you have to have an open mind, is you kind of have to coach and guide the other students to also have open mind in regards to certain situations. A lot of students now are aware, and maybe that problem conversation might happen with starting out, well, I saw that student got to do this,
yeah,
right? And it goes, and they want to go back and forth just to maybe avoid escape their own work.
right,
So it's, even though personally it starts with you having an open mind, but you also have to coach and teach open mindedness to everyone else in the classroom as well.
right. Then that probably ties into self-reflection in the next topic.
Mhm.
We had discussed that yesterday about kind of viewing how you were perceived in your position of power
Mhm.
uh, in comparison to the students you might be dealing with from different backgrounds, different ethnicities, and
Oh yeah.
cultures and things of that nature.
Oh yeah. What works with one student may not work with others.
Right. It was interesting. We talked about in the reading, I guess in Korea, smiling is not a socially like acceptable thing. Like they smile very rarely. It's
Mhm.
like very different, because smiling here is like friendly,
Right. Right.
So they discussed a child who, they were they thought like something was wrong with him. He was down all the time. No,
Sure.
he was just culturally, it's just not something that
Hmm.
he's used to doing.
Oh yeah.
Curiosity, um, curiosity is definitely a big one. Uh,
Hmm.
as a teacher, for sure.
Yeah, and I feel like when you think of curiosity, you go like kind of maybe self-internal on what you're curious about,
Hmm.
but it's really trying curiosity kind of blends all these to try to get to know your student and building those relationships to make sure that you're bringing out their curiosity
Right. It's an
with
important tool.
certain subjects and things like that. So it's kind of, I mean, you want to make you want to make it universal in the classroom, but it's kind of those separate conversations that you're having with each kid where you're trying to pull out their curiosity with
Hmm.
certain things. And it may not be every single class you're getting everyone pulled,
Right.
right? But it's kind of pick and choosing, depending on what type of lesson structure you have for that kind of day.
Feel like curiosity is a good way to get it to be their idea. If
Yes,
they're really interested in something, it's a lot easier to teach the content, I feel like at that point.
right.
You're not forcing it, right?
Right. And it's kind of maybe the one thing that you can kind of internalize is what type of lesson plan you're having. Like your lesson plan or your activities might pull certain curiosities out
Hmm.
more than other times,
Right.
and you kind of pick and choose that. So yeah,
Okay. And finally, educational equity. We had discussed yesterday Houston, right?
right.
That's equitable for him to have additional resources because of
Hmm.
his situation.
Correct.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. So we currently work with a student that has um deficits in seeing, hearing, gets headaches. He had a surgery. So this student, we try to find spaces around the room that maybe uh, are less strenuous with his eyesight because he gets headaches easily with like kind of the fluorescent lights that we have. Some other students might see that as unfair,
Hmm.
but he's really at a disadvantage as soon as he walks in, just because he just can't see really well,
Yeah.
and his medical headaches kind of are getting more frequent.
Hmm.
So we got to make sure that it's still challenging for the student,
Right.
right? We're not just making it easier for him, but at the same time, it also has to look, and it should be fair for all the other students to know,
Yeah.
with confidentiality, of
Of
course,
course.
right? But we got to make sure that those other students see it as fair.
Yeah.
Um,
See it as equitable.
yeah, and Houston's also not alone all the time,
Hmm.
right? Obviously, he's always going to get one-on-one support from us if he needs it, but we also want him to get him ready if he ever transitions to a bigger population where he still has to communicate with those other students. It's not like he can just be alone all the time or in the place that he wants to be, you know. As soon as you give a little bit, then you teeter-totter the manipulation thing as well.
Right.
So
Right.
fair for all.
Okay. Next topic, we're reflecting on what will be crucial for keeping the implementation plan on course and achieving SMART goals. So, uh, what's crucial, we talked about his parents and establishing that
Yeah.
with them, that it's important.
Hmm.
So I guess we just need to hammer that home
Hmm.
with them and really establish that base at home in the best way we could, provide that
Yeah.
support system.
Yeah. It's like well, let me just ask you, how do you think, like you personally as a teacher, what would be the best benefit for you to reach out to them? What do you think would be the easiest way?
Well, I would have to have an interpreter or translator or some type
Hmm.
of thing, but
Hmm.
um,
To start.
to
Yes.
start, even if you could do like a parent-teacher meeting, like in person
Right.
with an interpreter, I feel like it would be really helpful to establish like if they lack an understanding of the opportunities,
Yes.
present the opportunities and say, hey, your son is making progress. We
Hmm.
really could get him here or here. This is available to him. He doesn't just like
Right.
he's not in an entry level position anymore.
Right.
Like
Right.
his opportunities.
Hmm. And I know, like in our school district, sometimes it could be difficult to get that translator that day.
Yeah.
So that first meeting with the translator, I think, is super crucial to have like an emergency plan if you do need to like, how do we make sure in an emergency, let's say a translator's not there,
Mhm.
is there a way through Google Translate or some type of instant emergency
Yeah.
to where they can you guys can get in contact with each other?
Yeah, we have Google
Right.
Translate and I think honestly at this point AI might be better at speaking
Sure.
Spanish, so that we
Sure.
could certainly use that as a
Mhm.
tool.
Yeah, but I think we talked about yesterday too, like that first meeting with the translator is super important.
Super important.
Maybe to try to get maybe the parents on a routine.
Mhm.
It could be like if the parents can start understanding throughout the year that like, oh, this day he's going to reach out to me,
Mhm.
and I either prepare for a translator on that side, or I know that I can get to this email or get to this device
Yeah.
to help.
Establish that structure.
Yeah,
Right.
especially with the parents for sure.
Yeah. I think that's parents in the bottom line,
Yeah.
the support system.
Mhm.
Okay. Two original discussion questions concerning my development.
Yep.
In your opinion, what is the most important area of development for a new teacher?
I think it's definitely self-reflection, not to the point where like you're just beating yourself up all the time, but to try new things in the classroom, picking things, what works, what didn't work, and then kind of constantly tweaking.
Hmm.
Because even I'm into it many years, like even last year where I considered, oh, this lesson plan was great.
Yeah.
It may not be the same with the students that I have this year.
Right.
So it's constantly kind of switching lessons around to see what students like, what students don't like. But again, it's also like quality of life for you as well. Like if you felt like if you felt like maybe you didn't reach out to enough, right? Maybe it worked, and then you're kind of having to bounce,
Yeah.
right? There's self-reflecting, I think, is the biggest by far.
I think that something I learned in my time at Chick-fil-A, being a manager of people, is that you have to develop a thing called managerial confidence. When something has to be addressed, you have to have the confidence to go and address it.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing I'm working on right now because I do believe that our kids respect me and they like me as a teacher, but there'll be times where like people are sleeping or and I gotta have the confidence to go and like, hey, let's get started on this. What do you got to do today?
Right.
That's something I'm really having to work on.
Oh yeah. And it's not easy. I mean, to say that everyone's got it, like if once you're a manager or once like you're a teacher for a long time, to say that you have it like all figured out and stuff, that's just wrong. Like you're constantly, maybe as you even get older and students change and even like in the workforce, especially Chick-fil-A, I feel like people are younger are moving like, so it's like how to adapt to that younger generation.
Right.
And that happens like year to year or every
They
5
respond
years.
differently, yeah.
Yeah. So it's constantly tweaking your own self and self-reflecting on how you can make um situations better.
Awesome.
Definitely.
And I think
Second question.
the second question, I think we addressed it a little bit.
Yeah.
Of the four primary domains of disposition, which do you employ the most often? And that was for open-mindedness, self-reflection, curiosity, and educational equity.
At the alternative setting, I mean, open-mindedness is really big up there. And it's really big to get the other students involved. Because what happens a lot is throughout the year, students come in, right? And they feel like, oh, I've been in here long enough. And then when that new student comes in the alt setting, it can either go really good or it can go really bad. It's not really like
There's
in the middle.
differences, yeah.
And that open-mindedness is huge in the middle. Huge in the middle.
I think it helps them to understand people's situations because, we have all different kind of kids. Like you look at Lily and some kids be like, why is Lily here?
Right.
And they don't know that she's got stuff going on in her personal life,
Of
right?
course.
Or like Houston, like it's more apparent his struggles, right?
Right.
So there's
I'd say new teacher, the self-reflection's big. I think open-mindedness is huge based on the setting that you're in and of course the students that you have.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Stop recording.